Hey, Black America, we're back. I'm Wisdom Cole, Senior National Director of Advocacy at your NAACP, and we have the honor and privilege to be sitting with actor, podcaster, and director Daniel Curtis Lee. What's going on, man?
What's up, brother? Good to see you, man. Thanks for having me.
Man, thanks for being here.
Yeah, baby. Oh, yeah, of course. Got to.
We are excited to have you on Hey Black America.
Nice.
We're talking about Black culture, Black politics, Black advocacy.
Solid.
And so first, I would just love for you to share a moment of Black joy that you have seen or experienced this month.
Black joy. Ooh, this month. It's so much black joy to go around, man. We got the Olympics, man. A lot of big winners there. That's been awesome to watch. But for me personally, black joy. I went back to Mississippi just this last month. Unfortunately, it was for the passing of one of my cousins. So everybody take care of your health, all right? Make sure you stay looking at that hypertension, all of that cholesterol. Check it out. Beep it, check your blood pressure. But I got to take my niece out there for the first time. 4 years old. She's the best. I love being an uncle. And we got to go fishing for the first time. So it was awesome to be there with her for her first fish being caught. I had her out there with like a bamboo rod. The kids can't really work with the reels, but we went back to our pond. I got to show her, where me and her father grew up and things like that. So that was awesome. Really just seeing the youth enjoying all the beauty that is the world. Sometimes we can forget how amazing it is just to have breath and, access to just clean air. So that was great. It was some joy for me.
Absolutely, man. Family's so important.
yeah.
I just came back from my sister's graduation. She got her master's degree.
Congrats.
Thank you so much. In counseling. And so
Nice.
to see, again, the young people get older, grow smarter, grow wiser, and engage in their fields of profession is so important. But to the point about what you said about the Olympics.
Yeah.
Sha'Carri Richardson.
Sha'Carri with that, she was hitting it.
She said,
Still hit her with that look
she had
over.
that look. And she said, you see what she said on her nails? She said, I'm not back. I'm better.
I'm better. Man, she didn't miss a beat with that turn, though. That's what I'm saying. The average human would have, got shook up a little bit. She kept that same speed trajectory. It was fire, man. Lyles, he did really great. I think he ended up getting COVID in a second. What was it, 200 meter? But he nailed it, man. So many people. Yeah,
And
the
then
NBA team.
Yeah,
you
Team
know what I'm
USA.
saying?
To see Curry and LeBron play together.
I do. I gotta say, LeBron, I'm sorry. I thought Curry deserved the MVP, but hey, man, you got it. I'm proud of you, brother. LA.
Look, bringing it back to LA.
I mean, hey.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was literally Black excellence all around. Many medals, so much confidence in our ability to perform at the highest level. And I always think about the privilege of to be able to do the thing you love the most at the highest level.
At the highest level, yeah. The thing you love the most, or the thing you do with the least amount of effort, the best with the least amount of effort. That's real great, yeah.
Exactly. So talking about our passions, things that we are engaging in, big fan of yours. Literally feel like the first time I met you in DC, I was like, I know this guy. I've grown up with him. I've seen him. Why? This is somebody who lived down the block from me.
Yeah.
And then realized who you were. And so, thinking about the growth in your career, where you're at today, what are some of the things that you're most passionate about? What are the passion projects you're working on?
Passion projects, man. I try to let my passion projects also be taken on with a financial lens. So I'm trying, I want to be able to generate a good enough situation for me and my team whenever I take on projects. So if it's something where we can all eat and generate a little income for ourselves, that's what I prefer. The podcast, Ned's Declassified podcast, which is I'm sure you know me from the Nickelodeon show back in the day. I got to play tech geek Cookie, black tech nerd Simon Nelson Cook on Nickelodeon's Ned's Declassified. We brought the original cast members together, and we started this kind of podcast with the goal, the initial goal of helping people survive adulthood the same way we helped them survive middle school and things like that. But it's all backed with a bunch of comedy, so it's all laughs throughout each episode. But we drop every Wednesday. That's been a passion project of mine. That's been really cool. Just the entrepreneurship with people that you grew up with is a beautiful thing. It's hard to have lifelong friends, but we've been able to build that, and that's been great. That podcast journey, I went on to produce other podcasts and things like that. The Zegan Luther podcast, we've rebranded it to the For Further Instructions podcast. All great, but in starting these podcasts and the success that we've been able to see, like going #1 for Apple Podcasts in the TV and film genre, seeing all that success made me step back and say, okay, success here, but success for what? What else can you bring? You know, so now a passion project is one that I call Blurred Vision. So Blurred, like you heard the term, black nerd. Grew up being a black nerd, so I was like, okay, I've been a role model in that sense. Let me use my podcasting platform to highlight black inventors, black creators, blacks in STEM as well, you know. So a podcast / TV show where we can have segments where we're allowing people to see these creators in their element, describing exactly the method or methodology they use to create these awesome inventions. Like there are so many black inventors in like the anime kind of sector. You go to the Comic-Cons, you see them all like dressed up doing the cosplay. But some of these suits, they want to mechanize those suits to really make them be able to activate and do these otherworldly things. So there's this creator, Cayman the Creator. He's like huge on Instagram. He's done partnerships with a lot of different companies. But you know, he'll create like random like pyrotechnics that can shoot fireballs out like Iron Man. Or
Literally lit.
that type of literally lit, man. You know, or like he needs to freeze something. He'll figure out the device that can create it. You know, and he's so well versed in like electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and I feel like when we can bridge entertainment with tech, we can really aid, you know, the community, especially the youth in their learning of STEM technology. Like it can't just be in a book somewhere. You got to meet them where they are. They're entertained by this stuff. So okay, show them how you did it with that extra added benefit of it being from their favorite TV show. You know,
Man, that's dope. Like Blurred Vision, right?
Blurred Vision,
Like
you know what I mean?
you are really defining like what does it look like to be a black nerd, right?
That part.
You know, in my former life, I was a high school math and science teacher, right? And
Lit.
I studied STEM in college.
Dope.
But growing up for so long, you know, I felt very alone in terms of like being black in STEM. You know, oftentimes folks were like, do you belong here? Is this the right class for you? You know, I remember going into my first chemistry class in college and they're like, I think you're in a different class over there, right? And so, you know, when I think about people who pioneered the way for black nerds to be who they are, but more so be confident in what they love.
Hey,
I think of people like you, right? Like you were setting it off, like you were doing things, you were pulling hijinks, but you also were so confident in your character and your character's ability in its intelligence.
Yeah, you know, and that's so. Man, I appreciate you for saying that, and I love that character impacted you. But you really do have to have those role models. If you can't see yourself in an occupation or in a lifestyle, then you're gonna shy away from it at every turn. So I'm glad I was able to kind of be like a bridge to say, hey, intelligence is cool. If you're not drawn to the same things as everybody else that maybe looks like you, that's okay. They'll come around at some point. And I also I feel like it's just still such a stereotype that blacks aren't into technology. We've always had a lot of great, amazing creators and inventors, but it just hasn't been looked on as cool in media a lot of times. Like the auditions that I would go for, like I'm so blessed that I booked the role of Cookie, cyber genius, versus, you know, Thug number 2, you know, Bad Boy number 2, which I played in Friday After Next. You know, there's just all this like, okay, you can either be like the super athletic character or some prone to violence character and living in squalor, when that's just not our, you know, it's not our only archetype. We have so many amazing archetypes out there. We just got to highlight it.
Absolutely. That emphasizes like the diversity in our blackness, right? That we can exist in so many different tropes, different personalities. Shout out to Benjamin Banneker, right? If you don't know who that is,
bang, bang.
go look him up, right? Literally one of the first inventors in our community.
Hey.
But to be putting on in that way and continuing to carry that mantle is so important. And so, like, what does that look like for you in your adult life, right? Like, you know, the fact that you did this when you, how old were you? You were like,
man, I started that when I was what, 11 or something? 11 to like 14, maybe.
Start in middle school, right?
Yeah, in middle school, yeah.
Right now as an adult, you know, where we're seeing attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion, particularly in the tech industry.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you continue to hold that mantle and be that beacon for folks who want to be in that space.
Well, like I say, it took me being cognizant of a lack and saying, okay, I have this platform, I'm able to reach success with it, in the whole podcasting world, but let's segue it and make sure that there's an intention behind it. Okay, you're able to amass this community, then what do you do with that community? And that's why Blurred Vision, being able to highlight people working at a high level in STEM, tech, and inventors and things like that. I think that is going to be an added aspect of my legacy that uplifts our people, especially in the kind of technological field. But as far as DEI being pushed out, it's like now it's like a buzzword, like inclusion. Us thinking of it as being a negative thing is just so far-fetched to me. Like, you mean you're literally running on a platform that says we don't want inclusion? Like, it's tough. But there are many powers that be that do want to not allow Black Americans that same chance, or whatever Americans they want to ostracize from these sectors that generate wealth and allow for generational wealth. We have to just make sure that we're continuing to advocate for our inclusion in these fields that we've been historically pushed out of. Technology is so important to any community, and as a Black American growing up, history classes, you're seeing and being taught about the transatlantic slave trade and all of these instances where a lack of technology led to many of the disparities that we're seeing now, and not just with weaponry and things like that, but the government has worked hard to disenfranchise Black Americans from having access to technology. So I'm saying we need to learn from that history and make sure that it doesn't happen in the future. So with technology being such a huge emerging market, and a market that's just here and never going away, like with AI, it's just never going away. Like, give it up, guys. Yeah. We have to embrace it and make sure that we're letting the government know and policymakers know that they need to put things in place to keep us included in that arena.
Absolutely. Like, technology is not only an industry, it also is access to the language of power.
Hey.
And it's so important for us to be a part of that. And when I'm seeing these attacks, not only in the industry, but in our classrooms, it is a strategic attempt to keep us out of those halls of power. It's a strategic attempt to make sure that we don't give access to tell our stories on the highest stage possible, right? Like, this is a really difficult moment in time. And so I think from all of us, right, like even us, the people who are in power, the folks who are in the classroom, the people who are even acting on television and the movie screen, right? Like, what is our commitment to diversity no matter what? How are we ensuring that we continue to tell diverse stories, empower diverse minds, so that we can have diverse solutions to the most pressing problems in our future?
Yeah, what do we do? Because it is our duty. That's something that I've been getting hip to recently, because it's so easy to feel like you're on an island and, I'm just doing for me, and if this doesn't benefit me, I don't want to be a part of it. But I think we all have the duty to be aware and cognizant of the stories that aren't being told, and make sure that we are choosing to be a part of projects where there at least was some type of forethought to not just be shoving the same tried and true non-inclusive, I don't want to say BS down our throats. There are a lot of stories that just happen to not have multicultures involved. Sure, there are stories, but we don't have to only highlight those. So that's in choosing what jobs you come on for, choosing scripts that you care about and where you see representation for a lot of people. We just have to highlight stories that we know are representative of our whole community and not just some of it.
Absolutely. That's one of the things I love that you've done with social media, is that you're telling your story, right? You're using your platform to make sure that those stories get out there. I want to pivot the conversation a bit, because we have a really, really important election coming up this November. And with social media being a major tool for millennials, for Gen Z, really for majority of our generations, right? how do you kind of see social media play an impact in this upcoming election? And when we're thinking about like technology and advancement in technology, like where I'm thinking about like young creatives, right? Like how do we make sure that folks are putting out the right information?
Ooh, man, it's so slippery because that internet is wild. It's diabolical sometimes. Like, you can't censor, you can't filter everything on the internet. Like the companies can do it. Like we're seeing these companies kind of abuse the way the internet works, being able to shut some people up and amplify certain other voices. So that's an issue in itself, and that's another reason why we need to be abreast of new emerging technology so that we can combat any biases that are emerging on that level. But yeah, in social media, it's you can only do your part, because there are going to be adversarial energies that are trying to spew crap, and sometimes they're using bots to do it and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Which is really tough, because like do you really want to try to argue and find out that someone is a bot on the other end of that? But it's just like voting. You have to, given that the internet is a just conversation that's ever evolving, you have to show up and be present. You share your perspective on things. You share the information that you know to be correct and true. And that's kind of that's the key. Making sure that you are not so bold as to remove yourself from the conversation, because it's gonna be happening, and that's where most people, like you say, Gen Z, are getting their information from. It's gonna be on TikTok. We're no longer just settling for the government-sanctioned news projects to tell us what is news. We actually can go on there and find out from real people on the ground sometimes, in situations that are hotly debated. I want to hear directly from people. So I love that there is this first person ability to share your story with the world. Now we can get things on the ground. Just staying on top of what is emerging in the news of the internet. It's wild, but you got to be there, and you got to let your voice be heard.
Absolutely. We got to be true, we have to be factual, but we also have to be authentic. Because young people can smell when we are faking the funk, right? We have to be honest about the issues we care about. We have to be honest about this election, and honest about the results that will happen. I'm really big on making sure that we take that online community to in person, because likes don't equal votes. Right?
No.
Right. We have to be able to share, share those messages, put out those posts, let people know, even just key information about voter education. When is election day? When can you register to vote? When is voter education week? What's on the ballot? Who's on the ballot? Right. Where is your polling location? Right. There's so many things that are a part of the mechanics of voting that we need to make sure that our community is aware of. That, again, back to those attacks on DEI, have been purposely taken out of the classroom, have been purposely taken out of the places and spaces where we should be learning about it. And so that's another reason why we have to advocate even more. So I think, part of this process is really understanding, what are the issues that drive our lives. And I know that like technology is really big for you, but I'm wondering, are there other issues that you feel are at stake or are very important for this upcoming election?
Yeah, tech, that's I really think we need governmental policies to ensure that Black Americans are included there. But outside of that, I think voter suppression is like a big thing that's been coming up.
It's real.
No, it's so wild to think that all this work done by civil rights leaders in the past, you're trying to undo it. They're literally trying to unravel this stuff, and they had some I forget which city this was in, but they were setting up basically a call-in system or online system where you can go in, enter your information.
Georgia.
It's in Georgia. And take yourself off of being considered as a voter. It's like, okay, I enter my information, I'm no longer allowed to vote. Who would willingly do that? It doesn't even make sense why you would have a database like that. But, and I mean, it's just clear that you can then have people say, okay, I know where this person lives. I can enter their information. Now they no longer can vote. So I can go to these areas that have a demographic of people that I want to not be heard. And I can just type in their info. So we have to know that these attacks are happening, and we just have to be aware of them, and combat it as best we can. And a lot of times that's in your state and local elections. Yeah, so
absolutely. That's why it's important to make sure that you have relationships on the local level, the state level, and the federal election, right? I think it's really important for us to make sure that we are building people who understand how power moves and organizing to build a better America, right? You know, in a couple of years, it's going to be the 250th anniversary of America. You know, what do we want to show America is today? How do we show the diverse nation that we are? How do we show all the intricacies and developments that we've built if we're not being honest and truthful about who we are, if we're not being honest and truthful about our history, right? You know, I'm a big believer in Sankofa. For us to move forward, we have to look back. And so it's important for us to learn our history in the classroom. It's important for us to engage at all levels. It's important for us to make sure that the issues that are most important to our community are the top of mind for elected officials.
That's so wild. And that goes back to tech, like just the way that information can be withheld from certain portions of the population. We're so blessed to now have this internet, smartphones, things that can make, you know, an experience that otherwise would have gone unnoticed. It just happened to one person and we don't even know if it really happened. Now with the internet, it's like, I just upload this video, now here it is, this is happening to me right here. And then, oh shoot, 10 other videos. Oh, okay, wow, this is a actual issue that needs to be addressed. So we're blessed, but we have to show up and make sure we're voting to to combat these atrocities that we're able to now see. Technology is making us see it, but then we still have to be active and make the change.
Absolutely. I said we got to show up and we got to show out.
Hey,
right? We got to let people know that we are here. These are the issues that are important to us, and that we're not letting up. So last question I want to ask you before we wrap up. You know, being a creative, being in the creative space, engaging with all these different people who are working to create content and to tell a story and to tell a narrative. You know, what advice would you give to young creatives about how they can engage in this upcoming election?
Advice on how they can engage. Ooh, man. Research. We have the tools. Like there was a time where, like, you know, I'm thinking of my parents, my grandparents, where they couldn't look things up and understand for themselves. They kind of had to go with whatever their local government was telling them was happening. So go out there and make sure you research, because we're blessed to have these tools on our side. Research. I'm not gonna say go out there and try to get everybody else to vote, but if you know you share common ground with people, you know, encourage them to go out and do the same. You know, because as much as like you know, these likes are happening for maybe the candidate that you appreciate, they have to show up at the polls, or nothing's gonna change. Nothing's gonna change. It might feel like, hey, we got a big win coming, but it's just feeling like that. You got to make sure that it's concrete. Go and vote.
We got to go from the protest to the polls. Right?
Hey.
And oftentimes we think about the election as such a daunting task, right? There's so much intricacy to it that we may not understand. So one thing we like to say at the NAACP is engage in the power of five, right? Be responsible for 5 people to register to vote. Be responsible for 5 people to educate about the vote. Be responsible for 5 people to know where their polling location is. Better yet, drive 5 people to the polls if you have a car, or help them get there by bus, by Lyft, by Uber, whatever method of transportation. But like, take responsibility for 5 people in your community, because what is more effective than a big message is the micro influencers that are in your community, right? Your auntie and uncle down the street, the person who lives down the hall in your dorm, right? The person that you see at the grocery store every Tuesday, you know, the people that you hang out in your local rec leagues, right? Those are the people who have the most influence on you. Barbershop talk. Come on.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely, man. Well, I appreciate you being here. Daniel Curtis Lee, producer, actor, podcaster extraordinaire. Thank you so much for being here today on Hey Black America. Appreciate your perspectives and everything you shared with us. Any final words for our audience before we leave?
Hey, stay black. I'm Daniel Curtis Lee, and I am all in on blacks in technology, youth in STEM, and combating voter suppression in this election. Keep winning. Peace. Black America.